Alright guys, welcome back. We are here making a platform game for the future. So let's check out what I have. Let's just play this real quick. I'm going to actually turn these variables on, and this should be probably very similar to what you have. Maybe yours is even better than this. You can see I'm using this bug where my hero can run through things. Ooh, and then my hero just fell off the edge. So that's a bug, clearly. Right now I can run through my enemy. That's my enemy. Oh, okay, there we go. The screen changing worked that time. Ooh, and he just barely can make it through the lava. And then, again, I'm using a bug where... so that's my game currently. So there's a couple bugs in there, right? And there's some things that I want to talk to you guys about. So let's start off with variables. So I have 3 variables that I have created. So vertical movement, we've talked about that one in class. That's for jumping. So when I press jump, that's going to change up and down. And then I have 2 others. So I have lives. So I start with 3 lives, and then my idea is that if you lose 3 lives, then you lose the game. And if you get through both scenes, then you win the game. And then I have this variable number called scene number. So basically that's going to start at 1, so my first scene. And if I get through my first scene, then it switches to 2. And then as I, just barely make it through this scene, it switches to 3. So if you had more scenes, obviously your number would go higher and higher. I only have 2, but I highly encourage you guys to have 3 or 4. Okay, so why do I have these variables? So lives is probably pretty obvious why I have that one, but scene number is maybe less obvious. So one thing I want you to notice is when you're on this scene, I have 3 sprites. I have a platform, I have my enemy, and I have my hero. But when I go to my next scene, all I have is an empty pit. So I don't have an enemy sprite. But you guys should. But anyway, so I want my platform and enemy to disappear in my second scene. Right? Because they're not all the same. They don't have the same enemies. So let's see how I did that using scene number. So there's a couple things going on. One thing is I'm using broadcast. And you guys should be using broadcast also. So whenever I want to switch the scene, I broadcast next scene. And for me, that happens when my X position is greater than 200. So that basically means I'm off the edge of the screen. I know in class today we did when you're touching the edge. That's fine also. They basically do the same thing. So I broadcast next scene. And let's see what I do with next scene. So in the same sprite, I am going to that location. So that's the same location I go to at the beginning of the game when I press the green flag. And so that's basically this location on the left side of the screen. And that's where I want my hero to start every time I go to a new scene or I start the game. So let's see what happens in the platform. So when the platform receives next scene, it's going to hide. Okay? And when it gets the green flag, it's going to show. Alright? And then let's look at the enemy. So the enemy actually doesn't receive next scene, but what it does do is use the scene number. So if the scene number is 1, then it's going to be shown. Ooh. If the scene number is not 1, so anything but 1, then it's going to be hidden. Just drop some water on my computer. Alright. And then let's see what happens on the stage. So the stage, when next scene is pressed, it's going to change scene number. So that's what's increasing this variable. And then it's going to go next costume. So hopefully that all makes sense. So that's how I'm dealing with the next scene and whether I will be showing my characters or not. The other thing, so one thing you're going to really want to get down is pressing green flag. So you're going to want, every time you press green flag, for your game to fully restart. And that's basically like pressing the reset button on the Nintendo. Like you want the whole game to start anew. So I set my lives, I set my scene number, I set where my character is, I set where my enemy is. Everything is reset to beginning. So make sure that your code does that. Okay, so that's pretty good. So one thing that I want to have working better, so we notice some bugs. One is that I can run into my enemy here and it doesn't lose a life. And so let's talk about losing a life now. So I put all my falling code in this fall block, and this is where I lose a life. And I broadcast lose life and restart. So I have two types of broadcast. One is lose life and restart. The other is next scene. So when I lose life and restart, I basically want to restart the game, except for my lives is going to decrease by 1. And so you can see on pretty much every sprite, I have this lose life and restart receive. And so for the main character, I say something, I go back to the beginning, and then I lose a life. For the platform, I show the platform. For the enemy, I go back to its original position. And for the stage, I go to scene 1 and switch to the first costume. So I go to my first stage. Okay, so now let's figure out why this is not working. So this is my code for falling. So my character is always going to fall. So if I go off the screen, for example, it's going to fall until it gets below -240. So that basically means that my character has fallen off the screen. And so that's good. When he falls off the screen, I want to lose a life. And the other thing I want to lose a life is when I hit the enemy. But you'll notice that this repeat until code will never run unless it's not touching green or the platform. So since my character is always touching green, I can touch the penguin. But if I was falling, all of a sudden I would lose a life. So let's fix that. So I think we want this touching enemy to be somewhere else. So I'm actually going to drag that out. I'm still going to keep this when it's off the screen. So that's still going to lose a point. That's good. But out here, I'm going to put the touching penguin part. So let's grab an if. Let's just put it at the bottom here. Touching enemy. And then I want to broadcast lose point and restart. Okay, so let's try this. So we're going to practice debugging right now. So I just changed some code. Let's click the green flag and try it out. So I should be able to run into the penguin. Okay, I do see it saying you lose 1 life, but something's kind of stuck about that, right? So I lost 1 life, but I was stuck on the penguin. And I think that is because of this code right here. So when I lose a point, I'm saying you lose 1 point for 2 seconds, and then I'm going to the beginning. And then I'm changing lives. So I'm going to change that order. Okay, so I'm going to go to the beginning, change the lives, and then say you lose 1 point. Ah, okay, so that looked much better. So let's try. Ooh, okay. So that looks much better, right? Okay. So I'm at -2 lives now. Let's see if I go over penguin. Okay, here I am on the next level. Okay, there, and it starts over. So that's perfect. That is what we want to have happen. So now, my game works flawlessly. Well, relatively flawlessly. Still many bugs, but we're getting closer. The only thing left you guys have to figure out is how to win and lose the game. Clearly you should not have -3 lives. But I'm going to leave that up to you. So good luck.